that's kind of that's Dynamite now. You know, there are bigger picture things that are, you know, we're gonna lose our voices repeating over and over again that are obviously a problem right now. There are still individual segments I enjoy. There are still individual segments that make me tear my hair out. That's just kind of the world we're in with AEW Dynamite at this point. I mean, if we start at the top, like the biggest kind of, like, say those biggest first two quarters is the positive, was kind of the MJF and Friends stuff, as we got the, you know, it was built up, the Juice Robinson match, in fairness, whether you like that build or not. We then spent 2 quarters, JP, selling, I think I counted 4 different MJF matches, which has got its positives. Everyone's going for the world champion, fair enough, but like, it was a lot of exposition. Like, it was just messy. I felt like it was like, so Jay White's on commentary, but he's also got to get involved. And then we got the Roderick Strong stuff that's kind of going on the outside. Like, there was a point where Roddy and the Kingdom were doing a run-in on behalf of MJF. Then they got thrown to the outside. Then Jay White had to get involved. It was proper amateur hour stuff. You had to kind of go around them to get in the ring. Didn't just pretend that they weren't there. And it was like, oh, that's a bit shit. And then, like, after we'd set that up, so we set up the multi-man tag. Then we had MJF going up the ramp with microphone in hand. Oh no! Before that, we had the Guns getting on the mic as well, didn't we? Challenging MJF to a tag match. MJF replies with the mic. We then get MJF walk up the ramp with the mic, which you never see. Like, it was very obvious. Oh, MJF, in kayfabe, we would have no reason to believe Kenny Omega's going to come out, is walking up there with the microphone because he's going to do another back and forth with somebody else. Out came Kenny Omega, and we set up that match as well, on top of the Jay White match that we've got a full gear, on top of the tag team match we've got a full gear, and on top of the multi-man. It was one of them where a few of those individual ideas are probably good, and a few of the individual things they did in the segment were good. Thought the match was pretty good, but it just felt like one of those moments once again where it's like, good Lord, does MJF need an editor? Good Lord, does he need someone to every now and then go, you know what, Max, no, mate. We don't need to do all of these same things in one thing. He's so WWE brains, isn't he? At the end of the day, that's MJF, and that's what he's being. He's trying to be that WWE style world champion. And I felt like these 2 quarters that opened Dynamite had the good of MJF in there, because there was a good performance in a match and some good promo material, and the bad of MJF, which is just messy creative.
And I'm completely with you on that, because after that we got a Wardlow promo about him, and then a backstage segment with Samoa Joe, and I came away from it going, okay, I can see, if you try and break it down, the idea is that all these people are gunning for the world champion. I go, yeah, that's fine. Do they all have to do it at exactly the same time on exactly the same show? The idea, I was, you know, if you're looking at this and thinking, well, what would you do with the Kenny match? You have that in Long Island. There's your pay-per-view main event for there in Long Island, MJF, Kenny Omega. Like, after that,
maybe
then
Kenny's going to Japan.
Yeah, I'm sure he can hang off till New Year's Eve, can't he? Like, for that one to be the case. And he is their wrestler under contract. And if you want to try and sell a pay-per-view, a new pay-per-view as well, he's probably in the best position to be able to do that. January, you can go to Wardlow. Then Full Gear, you could be, or Samoa Joe. You can do that with either of those. You could space these things out and have him kind of like what they did with Orange Cassidy, where effectively he's getting more worn and worn down by the grind of being the champion and having to defend the belt. And instead, what it was is just throwing all this stuff, all this information at you that we know, because we've give or take and seen every single episode of this program ever since its inception. But if you're new to this, you might just think, fucking hell, this is confusing. It's really confusing. And he's going to be wrestling another tag team, like, in there as well. And I thought, well, maybe they might have the Kingdom say, no, don't worry, Max, we'll do it for you. And then effectively lose it, whatever. And then kickstop, you know, wrestling in their place or something like that. But it's like you say, it's just the creative aspect of, it's just throwing so much stuff and seeing what sticks and going with all of it and not going, okay, logically think about this. Like, why is all of this going on? Did you need the Samoa Joe segment? No. Did you need the Wardlow segment? No. Did you need the Gun segment? No. Did we need bloody Roderick Strong coming out and everything and laying the seeds for that at some point in there? I felt exhausted by the end of these first 2 quarters. I really did. So then by the time it came to the Hung Bucks versus the Hardys, I was kind of zoned out. And even if you look at the quarter-hour breakdowns, the sheer amount of content in this show is nuts. It's so much. And it's not crash TV. Because I'm even pretty sure, like, WWE in their Russoific best, it wasn't this segmented and having this much stuff going on, particularly all revolving around one. Well, yeah, it probably was.
And it's not a good example, by the way. That's the problem. MJF is so brained in that way that he thinks that was good. He thinks John Cena being an unbeatable top babyface is good. Like that's MJF. Like that's how he sees the world. I mean, like I say, I'm more sympathetic in that I think I like the Jay White program still. I like the Guns getting a tag title shot. I almost like Samoa Joe being like a callback to the NXT thing of like, I'll be your bodyguard. Yeah. But there are individual things I like. It's the sum of the whole. I think you've nailed there, which is it being messy and it being like, a couple of people in the chat, like even the Kenny match. I like that. Kenny in a world title match. Absolutely. Kenny versus MJF. We should do more good matches. But that feels like something they came up with like 4 days ago because, somebody looked at the calendar and realized, oh, fuck, MJF's about to beat Kenny's record. So let's do the match. Like it doesn't feel organized. It doesn't feel like there's a quality control there, a quality assurance of like, 4 of your ideas are great here, Max. Let's do the other 6 next week. That's where they lose me, even if I'm maybe more sympathetic to the individual ideas. I mean, the other big thing on the show, gotta talk it, Ric Flair. Sting's allergic to jackasses. We also learned that in that segment. I thought Christian was good for his part. Who was apparently the jackass that Sting is allergic to. Flair, though, like this is the problem with the first hour of this show. I know we'll zero in on the Hardys and Rod and Todd, and we might even zero in on a Rob Van Dam of feeling very 2010 TNA. Him popping up on TV again. That could have been a Rampage match. To be honest, I blame that more for the loss of fans than I do the Hardys. I think that and the spot it was in is quite guilty. Like it shouldn't have been there. Like it was, fucking. There's got to be better things you can put on TV at that point. That screams Rampage to me. Ortiz and Santana, maybe. Switch the two. But I think it was that cavalcade of old men that happened in this first hour. And that, there's rumors of maybe Big Show being Chris Jericho's back up. So we're going to have to deal with that at some point as well. And it was just one after the other. These fucking like TNA reject feeling blokes are coming out. TNA aren't doing this in 2023. And Flair being out there felt like this was TNA Tony jumping the shark. Like that is not the AEW that we signed up for. This is not a Tony Khan. Tony Khan, when he started AEW, he put Brett in that spot with the belt, and he's always wants to pay tribute to legends. But I think he was always smart with it and picked his spots. The idea that Flair is now going to be here, like following Sting around until fucking March, whenever Revolution is, like just feels like it is. It's the straw that broke the camel's back. Like if he appeared in a pre-tape or whatever, I'd have the same moral considerations. You've got to talk about that element of the story as well, about platform and Ric Flair in 2023. But just purely from a creative point of view, coming out just felt like, oh, this is not the show I want to see. Nice thing for Sting. Sting seems happy with it, and God bless him. Steve Borden seems like a good man. He's happy Flair was there. It seemed like a genuine surprise, and was a genuine nice moment for him. But it just made me go, oh no, what is this I'm watching at this point? And like, I think Ric Flair is just, he's a TNA hire, he's a vanity hire, and he's just one too many for me.
Oh, absolutely. Like when I saw this, I thought, what a gift to give someone. I'm going to give you an alcoholic pensioner who's in deeply problematic for you to look after for the next 4 months. What a gift. Yeah. Or you could just put him in a care home. That would normally be the way that you would resolve these kind of
issues. The best for him. Life, we saw that match last year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So what's going to happen is he's going to get involved? Absolutely. At full gear, he's going to be involved physically within the match as well, which has its own massive risks in and of just from a basic health perspective, given how, didn't he have a fucking triple bypass or something along those lines not that long ago? Do you need him? No. What does this add? Does it add rate? Does it add viewers? Well, apparently not. because there wasn't exactly a whole groundswell of people going, "Whoa, Ric Flair's in AEW. Let's turn the channel and go back up and see what the hell's going on." And he didn't look great, did he? At all. So I was just completely bemused by this. I'd seen the spoilers and I went, "Oh, for the love of God, really?"
The only thing I knew getting up there is
much the same thing, but probably in a much more kind of like pleasant way, given his relationship with Jesus Christ.
It's a tough one because, like, you know, I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I'm not as. I'm trying to think of a way to politely word this. I think, firstly, Tony Khan has opened himself up to as much criticism as is warranted by going on Twitter in the last few weeks and saying what he said about Vince McMahon, only to sign Ric Flair, who Plane Ride from Hell story, read that. Pretty much any old Flair story, really. That's one thing where I am a little bit more like, I mean, people act like they're shocked, like, oh, we loved Ric Flair, and then we found out what he did on the plane ride. It's like, were you not paying attention to who Ric Flair was his entire career? Was that a shock to you? I'm not shocked at all that he's an old pervert. Like, I mean, yeah, he is. That's no excuse. I think people are going to, though, be more, not sympathetic, but more like, well, it was in the past, you know, alcohol, blah, 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 blah. You can make a case for it, for why, like, you might still, you know, have a space to be like, you know, I'm not as mad about that as I would be about certain other people, like, certain appearing on TV, but it's still not a good look. And, like, and it's very clear that Tony Khan planned on using him a couple of years ago. That story came out and he backed off and just waited for the heat to die down. And it's like, he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. He's trying to be moralistic about Vince. And I know, you know, I think somebody said on our Discord, you know, if Vince's crimes would get him in prison for life, Flair's would probably just get him, you know, just only 5 years, you know, still fucking bad. But, you know, you can make that balance to yourself and you make that argument to yourself. But, like, what's Tony Khan? It gives more color, I think, to Tony Khan's fucking Twitter outburst the last while. And it's like, mate, don't be trying to take the moral high ground because, you know, there you go, right there. You know, Ric Flair's on your TV, so you probably need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, you can't claim that moral high ground anymore. That's gone. Can't have this. And it's not the first time that we've kind of seen this necessarily with Tony Khan doing it as well. And then it even comes into, even if you kind of remove yourself from any of the kind of moral perspective on it, what is the value in bringing in Ric Flair in 2023? He didn't add anything a whole 13 years earlier when he was in, like, or where however long it was when he was in TNA. Didn't add anything. Didn't add pay-per-view buys.
Oh, you know, there's a Jay Lethal back and forth coming, JP. That's happening next few weeks. We're going full TNA.
And it's just from a perspective side of it. And it's the thing that we kind of see this, is that there's so much about like where you go, like the version of TNA that we don't like, when it was like Hogan and friends and stuff like that. There's times when I look at AEW and I go, Jesus, the amount of kind of veterans and everything else. And when Sting did the announcement, I was like, okay, it's a way of phasing out one of those veteran types, because let's face it, there are far too many. But they've done as well as you ever can do with this as well. And it's not like it should be about necessarily Sting passing stuff on to the next generation, i.e. a Darby Allin and other people like that. Yeah.
Edge is who he's passing the torch to, mate.
He's passing to Edge. Well, apparently he has a long history with. I was like, where was this? Where was this long history? I was like, have you two even been in the same company at the same time? I'm not quite sure that's the case.
No, they haven't.
Absolute bollocks.
Oh, the only history they've got is Edge stealing his gimmick when he first started and doing the long trench coat, like knocking around in the rafters thing. But like, I would say that's the wrong. Like talking to these older legends, Sting's the one I don't want to retire. Like that backstage segment, because again, positives. Christine was great. Him ripping into Flair was hilarious. Maybe it shouldn't have been hilarious, but it fucking was. And then the backstage segment where I felt like Sting and Darby trying to talk sense into Edge to joining them to do this 6-man tag was the most I've been into Edge. Like, I was like, oh, that's actually, Sting was quite motivational, and, the way he talked about it and stuff. It was like, it fired me up. I was like, yeah, go on, fight with them, Adam, join them. And then it just made me realize, fuck, I wish Copeland was the one retiring and not Sting. But oh well, we'll take him while we can get him. But I did think that was solid as well. Outside of that on the show, Okada was on the show, JP. I think you were proven right on that one. I was a little bit more positive on the fact that he was on Dynamite. It felt Like a lot of things, you know, like it hadn't massively been thought through, or somebody had just forgotten it was on the docket until last week. It was like, oh, by the way, got a card on Dynamite next week. But you were saying there wasn't enough build up for it, and then it kind of came and went, and yeah, it didn't really do much. If anything, I felt like he had more chemistry with Claudio than he did Brian. I know they tried to do the work shoot thing, but I just thought it made it for a drab ending to the show. It was just a bit of a downer, and it just had me going, well, that was a show. Even though there were maybe some other things like I mentioned in a minute I liked, that was just like, oh, okay, cool. Brian's injured, off we go, and we're done. And even Okada, I didn't think he'd come across as a megastar. Thought like the crowd helped. The crowd were into him.
Yeah.
And maybe it was a look thing too. You know, his black trunks with his hair dye running out doesn't make him look the greatest he's ever looked. Just in general, it just felt like it's going to be a trivia note that like you're going to go, remember Okada was on Dynamite last year, and I'll be like, when? What did he do? Because it really was a whole load of nothing, I thought. Don't know if you're higher on the match.
Not really. I mean, I think people are higher on it than me. I just couldn't help but feel like, is this the best use of Kazuchika Okada? And we can argue that about many, many things and many people necessarily. Is this the best use of them? Flying them in for this to do a kind of quite, like you say, underwhelming work shoot angle at the end isn't the kind of stuff that gets me going. So I watched this, and it's like, I'm sure for the people live there, they popped for him when he came out. Can't pretend that I was massively keen on it. A Claudio in New Japan run? Yeah, I'm probably keener on that than anything else, but that's not the aim at play here. I mean, I just thought for me, okay, why are you doing this? Well, it's to build to the match between them. And I thought maybe if there'd been some sort of pull apart at the end or something a bit more heated towards it, which then sets up maybe Danielson turning up at Power Struggle, or even if it's just on a video to challenge Okada for the Tokyo Dome, that would have been something there as well. Instead, it just kind of ended, and it was like kind of very, very underwhelming and not really a hook to kind of keep people in the show, because again, it's kind of thrown together. And look, we've got Okada on here. It's like
another week.
Yeah.
Where they didn't build the main event. It happened on Collision. Like, there was just no promotion of it really through the show. Like, and that's obvious, the basics, isn't it? Like, of course you're going to create viewers when you don't promote it. Just going to say other quick miscellaneous thoughts on the show. Got to talk about the Swerve angle, and with it being your background there for the video viewers. Yeah. It's funny, you know, I enjoyed it in the moment, and like as I've sat on it, I hate it now. it took me a couple of days. Because it was, I've got to say, I thought Swerve's performance was great. Like, no one plays sinister like he does. Same as the Nick Wayne School argument angle. That was fucking great. It's a shame the face heel dynamics of that whole thing are now broken. But the thing itself was great, and it was because he's a good actor. There's not many good actors in wrestling, and maybe he's a little bit hammy, but just about on the right side of hammy for wrestling. Though he was great, and I also thought, we're talking the positives of it, Prince Nana not quite playing along with it, not quite being in the same lane as him. Like, their chemistry is weird. I don't know why it works. It shouldn't, because Nana is very lighthearted. He is another comedy element on Dynamite. We keep listing them off. He's another one with his funny dance and all of that stuff. But like, something works about their chemistry, because he's like trying to have fun and be like, oh, I'm gonna fuck around, and like Swerve's like, no, we need to take this serious. And then their dynamic switches as it gets into the room with the baby, which was wrestle crap. I've ruminated on it now. I do agree. But I think like Nana being like, we need to fucking go, like actually added something to it and made it feel even darker than it was. They're the positives. What Nana probably also needs to do is, like you said at the top of the show, give a bit of an explainer of, oh, there's someone coming upstairs, or, there's someone at home, maybe explain that side of it. Yeah. And like I say, as I've kind of sat on it for a couple of days, it's like, yeah, do I actually want this type of stuff? As good as Swerve is at pulling this angle off, do I really want it on my wrestling product? No. Did it necessarily add to the Hangman story? Maybe not necessarily. If anything, it felt a bit random, especially when, Hangman's just been in the ring fucking around with Rod and Todd and doing his working trios with one of the, two teams Rod and Todd are willing to work with at this point. It just felt tonally off in the end. Like, as much as there are ingredients of it, again, I enjoyed, it was the tone of it that maybe just didn't match what else we were doing here.
Yeah, just like, there's only one way I think I would have liked this angle, and it would have effectively ended up with Christian Cage versus Abyss and the angle they had in that house, where they just go in and they have a big fucking fight around the place. That would have been great.
Enjoy.
Which I love that. That's a great angle. But also, we would have resulted in us being nosy and having a look around Adam Page's house, which I'm always curious in there. And I think you're playing with fire if you're ripping up like baby pictures that clearly his son has done in paint. All I can think is with someone who is the dad of a 6-month-old, like you try talking at that level of voice with a cameraman in there as well. That kid's waking up and he's going to be waking up. He's going to be fucking screaming at that point in time. And you are there thinking, where's his mum? Like, where is she? Where is she in all of this? And it's those kind of those are the things that take away the credibility of it. You mentioned about the Nana and Swerve relationship. The thing I'm with you on this, that I think the reason it works is just because it's very clear the guy, look, Nana, you're over as a face. That's really what you are at this point with the dance and everything else. And people have kind of bought into that. What he's there to do is he only highlights how dark and sinister Swerve Strickland is. And it's that contrast between the two. And that's the thing I really like about their dynamic. So, you know, you can keep that on there for a while until we get to the point where he fires Nana. And then Nana will come back with like a variety of like other people maybe to take him on. But that's long term down the line. In terms of angles like this as well, I mean, I don't know, you know, whether or not if it had just been Swerve Strickland outside basically stalking his family, would that have been any better? Not really. This all enters into wrestle crap stuff. It's one of these things where he can pull off this type of storyline, and we kind of, as you've said, he can do that. Should you be doing it? No, not really. Not particularly when so much of this story has been built in a kind of like you've been given the opportunities that I haven't been given, which is ground that in a sense of reality, and you get that. So you have the justifiable heel. And as much of a dick as he is, he's coming from a place of kind of like, actually, I can get his righteous indignation and why he feels like that. This is just like, I'm going to break into your house and fucking stalk your baby.
Yeah. To that point, like, is that the dynamic of this story? Because I feel like Swerve beat Hangman. So, like, it might make sense. It was like Hangman should. This is a problem with all of the elites. Hangman should be wanting to fight Swerve and beat Swerve. Like, he should be that should be the motivation for this feud. Not Swerve now just being randomly a dick to the guy that he already beat. Like, it just, it doesn't add up there either, does it? And you've got fucking, I mean, credit to Hangman, at least he ran to the back. It wasn't one of those stupid wrestling angles where he just stands on the ring like the goober. Although, again, the Bucks did. But on that note, sorry, just as a sideline, Rama mentions in the chat, we asked why the Bucks were in this situation, why we're doing trios, and, you know, why we've seemingly forgotten that the number one contenders for the tag titles. Yeah, we didn't have it as a news story, but it is right to mention. Yeah, apparently FTR only lost the tag belts to Ricky and Big Bill because they thought they were going to have a rematch down the line and win them back. And then, I suppose they gives everything go that far, but that's you could read that into it. And then the winner was going to face the Bucks in a tag match. Apparently that chat plan's completely changed now. Like, to whatever the plan is now, because I can't figure it out, because it does seem to be a forgotten thread that the Bucks are number one contenders, and the tag belts are in a weird spot right now. Strange. I don't know if FTR were doing the work in there, or FTR got worked, or somebody took somebody out of there doing another FTR Bucks match, but odd story.
Yeah, really odd story for this one. And again, doesn't help the tag belts, does it?
No.
And trust me, I'm all right with Big Bill and Starks being kind of like, you know, short-term champions and whatnot. Like that. Look, it gets a bit of Big Bill on our screens. So I don't know.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it for that reason. But again, it doesn't like give you any kind of hope. And surely the Bucks should be trying to challenge them. And then you can go back to like actually Bucks as champions, FTR as challengers. You know, the reversal of what we had at All In as well. So yeah, very, very, very weird. I do want to bring up one other thing as well. One other note from Dynamite. The one thing we haven't mentioned, Tony Storm. Like this is all properly jumped the shark now. The addition of Luther is the death knell for this to me. I was just like, this bloke, he does not need to be around. I do not give a shit how nice he is. That is completely irrelevant. He doesn't add anything for this as well. And it's just like, it's so silly and over the top. When you think about people liked Tony Storm for a bit when she was showing that kind of little bit of character when she just gone mad. this whole kind of movie starlet from the 30s stuff is it's just shit. It's just really fucking bad. It's going to beat Hikaru Shida in LA, and I don't.
Oh, mate,
it's so performative as well. It's just so much of like kind of weird hand signals and stuff, and it's like, what the fuck is this?
We've got to mention as that. You're absolutely right. I think even me, I was charitable towards it. I think as time's gone on, yeah, I think the haters have won out on that one. But I don't even think it's the biggest problem in the women's division. What the fuck was that Shida and Ruby Soho match?
Oh,
I mean, Shida's got no direction anyway. Like, I mean, that's its own problem. I guess the direction is Tony again, but like, this is the problem. Like, Tony's off doing comedy and Shida's just doing rando matches on Dynamite. Fuck me, Ruby Soho. Like, I'm putting the blame at her feet. Like, sold a bill of goods when she came over to AEW that she was some good wrestler that was going to add to the division. She was horrendous in this match.
Oh.
To be fair, they were both bad. You call a spade a spade. No chemistry, multiple blown spots. Like,
the strikes were terrible. The kicks were awful. They were so soft. It's like they weren't even connecting at all. Like nothing on them as well. And I was like, what happened here?
You know when a game glitches and like you hit a DDT on someone and like their body's over there and they take the bump on the other side of the ring? Half the moves in the match were like that. Like, it's fucking horrendous. This women division is death right now. Jamie Hayter can come back at some point. Maybe that'll help. But outside of that, I don't know what you do. Yeah, it's all over the fucking show right now. But there you go. That's it. That's Dynamite for another week, and I'm sure we'll be viewing Collision on Spotlight in the same terms. And yeah, on that note, speaking of Collision, we do have a busy weekend of AEW once again. No Battle of the Belts, JP.